Hey, welcome back. This is Dino. It is fantastic, as always, to have you here with me. In this mini lecture, I'm going to be talking about Walter Kirn's article, Little Brother is Watching. Dun 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 dun. A couple things that we'll be talking about today. First is, who is Big Brother? Do you worry about big or little brother in your life? And have you had any big or little brother experiences? But first, of course, who is this Walter Kirn character, our fine author? He earned an AB at Princeton and a second undergraduate degree at Oxford. Subsequent to that, he was a literary critic for various magazines like the New York Magazine, New York Times Book Review, and New York Times Sunday Magazine. As well, probably most famously for those of you who are into pop culture, he was the novelist for a novel that inspired the movie Up in the Air with George Clooney. One person, a friend of mine, she thought I looked like George Clooney, but unfortunately for me, she wasn't wearing her glasses that day. Um, just also as a sort of a contextual point, the article that Kern wrote, it was written shortly after the Tyler Clementi tragedy. For those of you who may not know, Clementi was a student at Rutgers. He came out of the closet and his love life was exposed by his roommate through a webcam, and then Clementi took his own life. So it was quite a scandal and still a tragedy today. First off, who is Big Brother? For those of you who may not have read Orwell's iconic book, it was a sort of in the novel. It was used to portray an overly intrusive and controlling government, and it comes from George Orwell's or iconic 1949 novel, 1984. It was actually in direct reference to the totalitarian leader of the book's fictional state, and in the book, and in the sort of the environment that it's commenting on, people within it are watched and controlled constantly by this Big Brother, and they are reminded frequently that Big Brother is watching you. Here is a illustration. Frightening looking fellow, very Hitler-like, as for those of you who obviously most of you would know who Hitler is. If you have the chance, and I'll put this in the metadata for the video, um, the BBC in 1954 did a TV movie with Peter Cushing. He was in the original Star Wars movies. I'd highly suggest to watch either between 7:18 to 8:14 in the clip, or if you have a little bit more time, from 7:18 to 10:15 if you can't watch the whole bit. From Kern's article, here's a quote. And again, he's talking about the Clementi tragedy, and he's sort of contrasting what happened there, a roommate spying another roommate as little brother, as opposed to Big Brother, which is, again, a government type of entity. Quote, "It isn't some stern and monolithic Big Brother that we have to reckon with as we go about our daily lives. It's a vast cohort of prankish little brothers." So what he's saying is he's less, or sort of a little bit less concerned about, on a moment by moment basis, about the government in intruding and being part of our lives. It's more those people around us that can act in prankish ways and surveil each other and do odd and peculiar things to us. This article was in 2010, so it's a little while back. Just a question for you: what percentage of internet users at that time say that they were worried about how much information is available online about them? So again, this is 2010. Maybe make a quick guess. The answer is 33%. Obviously, in the time since then, I'm sure it's gone up as people have learned more and more about how various web browsers can track us, etc., etc. Here's another great quote. Really quite artfully stated. Quote, "Ours is a fragmentarian society, infinitely divided against itself and endlessly disrupted from within by much the same technologies that, in Orwell's somber novel, assured a dull and deadening stability. With nowhere to hide, you might as well perform, dispensing with old-fashioned notions of discretion and personal dignity." So from this, again, I'd sort of talk about this, that like sort of commenting on the first part especially. Um, we live in this fragmented society, a bunch of people sort of loosely collected around the internet. And because of that, our lives, because of the various people we know and we know online, our lives can be disrupted by, again, a roommate who might be prying, friends who might be a bit nosy, et cetera, et cetera. And in some ways, that, while sort of nostalgically looked at in this article by Kern, seemed kind of like quaint and not so bad in the sense that you kind of just know it's there all the time. It's just always around. In current society, we honestly don't know who's looking at us. It's not even just big government or that. It could be corporations, it could be our friends, etc. So from this, I have three questions: Can we hide online? Do we have to perform? And is there a cost to having to perform? So you might have your own. Those are for you. Maybe think about your own answers, and I'll go through them one by one. For question one, can we hide online? I would say definitely no. There are cookies and trackers and various ways for different governmental websites and private industries to surveil us. As well, our friends at any time can check out our social media feeds and our internet presence at any time. So hiding online, if you're online, you almost can't hide. Obviously, you can have an incognito mode on Chrome or those kind of privacy settings, but again, it's really difficult to have any type of life and not be somehow exposed. The second question is, do we have to perform? No, I mean, you could just, almost have no online presence and just kind of lurk and just sort of have the most minimum presence at all online. But it's really, that's, I think, is a choice that we have, but most choose to do the opposite and actually perform online. We'll have our social media feeds where we'll post pictures, we'll type posts, and we'll do other things. So again, we don't have to perform, but it seems like most of us do to some extent. And it's hard in this day when so much of social life is on social media. It's hard not to perform, and it's something, I mean, I do it, and I'm assuming most of you do. Finally, is there a cost to having to perform? I would definitely say that there is. When you don't have almost the option these days to not be engaged online, to quote unquote perform, it takes away your agency and your choice not to perform or not. It takes away your free will, again, whether to perform or not. Finally, the last quote, and then we'll be done for today. Quote, the invasion of privacy, of others' privacy, but also our own, as we turn our lenses on ourselves in the quest for attention by any means, has been democratized. From this, it's like, again, previously Big Brother were worried about the government interfering with us, but now it can be literally our neighbors, our friends, our brothers or sisters, our cousins, etc. Last, I'll ask you a last question. Are you worried about your privacy invaded more by the government, corporations, or your peers? You can answer this in any way depending on what your inclination is. For myself, I'm almost more worried by two. I think corporations have more information about me than anyone else, and that they actually are deliberately want to know more and more about me. Providing me ads for different things that I don't really need to buy, et cetera, et cetera. My peers would probably be second because they might be interested in me and looking at various things I have online, and then government is my third. It's my one I kind of worry least about, because I think the government has more interesting people to be concerned about than your humble narrator. That was Walter Kirn's Little Brother is Watching. Again, as always, thanks for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.